Oprah Winfrey has been known to say that the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change their future by changing their attitude. And I think for entrepreneurs and small business, this especially rings true. No one quite understands the journey of an entrepreneur and the loneliness that it can create, like another entrepreneur who's gone through the same kind of journey. So it's important to find ways that you can break away from loneliness as an entrepreneur, so that you can stay inspired and you can stay motivated. So we're going to do 7 tips today just on how to take care of that, how to handle that, how to powerfully and successfully break away from entrepreneurial loneliness or an isolation. Well, howdy everyone. My name is Leslie Hassler. I own Your Biz Rules Business Coaching, and I work with women-led service businesses to grow and scale in a way that's profitable and sustainable so that you can do great work, you can build a financial legacy for you and your family, and you can have a greater impact in the community with the work that you do. And I think today's topic is a really interesting one in that we've come, or hopefully are coming out of, a strong period of isolation where we've had to really examine so much of ourselves, of our businesses, how we want things to unfold in the future. And I know, just working with so many entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurs tend to be a little more introverted than extroverted. Sure, there's some extroverts out there. Sure, there's introverts with extroverted tendencies. Hi, I'm one. But I do think that we're at this starting point of really coming out of isolation and figuring out how we want to reconnect with each other and how we want to build community, build support around us as we're growing our businesses. So I think that's really important about why today's topic needs to be discussed. Let's talk a little bit about some of the causes, some of the things about being an entrepreneur that actually cause that isolation and loneliness. I think first off is, my notes I have right here in front of me. I wrote, the buck stops here. When you have the enormous responsibility of all the decisions, of making all the decisions along the way. And some of those decisions are easy peasy. Do you want a hamburger? Or do you want a salad? These aren't complicated decisions, but a lot of decisions, such as should I be hiring right now and who should I hire? And oh my gosh, I'm hearing all of the statistics and labor costs going up, and I'm worried about that sustainability. Like all of those stresses and doubts and concerns, valid ones often, they have a weighing factor. And oftentimes you're limited to whom you can speak to about these items, these concerns, these decisions that you're trying to make. And it's that weight of being the responsible one in the business that really has an isolating factor that brings to it. And part of that is normal, natural, right? But we need to recognize that it exists. The second thing, like we just talked about, in a post-pandemic world where we have worked more independently, there are a couple of things. I think one of the desires that I hear so much from entrepreneurs right now is the desire to be location independent. Well, I agree with it. I have a bit of gypsy soul to me as well. So I understand the desire. But when you start to work more and more independently, and when you choose things like location independence, then the relationships that would normally come from being around the same group of people time and time again, those opportunities aren't as present. And so it speaks to the nature of needing to be more intentional in how you create and support and nurture your community and the people around you so that you're not feeling isolated and lonely. Because on the good days, it's not a big deal, but it's truly on those days where you're doubting yourself, where you're struggling with something, that you need to be able to tap into that level of support. So I think there's this part of business and thinking about that independence and that freedom, that we have to be measured, right? We have to be intentional about what it is that we're creating. I think the third reason that entrepreneurs really have a lot of isolation is that, as popular as it is becoming to be an entrepreneur, people still don't get it. And the stories and the challenges that you're going through at startup, they change in this mid stage, and they'll even change again as your business grows, as it becomes more complex. And so I think that's a hard part of this, is that there is the flash and dash and the shiny sexiness of being an entrepreneur, but there's not a lot of conversations going about the reality, the vulnerability, the up and downside, the kind of, let's look at it as a holistic type of thing. And so that can create a lot of entrepreneurial isolation for people. And I think number 4 is, and this is what I watch, I probably observe a lot when I'm out, because I'm an introvert too. And one of the things that I observe is that we put ourselves into communities to build business. Maybe it's through lead generation, networking, all of those opportunities. But when we're in those types of environments, when the environment that we're in, the community that we're in, is meant to help lift our business up, we often can't go to that community for the problems, because we're worried about showing chinks in the armor. We're worried about scaring off business. And hey, it's a valid concern, but it just speaks again to how not having this holistic plan around who surrounds you and how you're supported and how you're inspired and where you can go to for those really hard questions that you just need another set of eyes on, or maybe just need to be express what's going through your brain so you can finish processing. These are all components that really amplify kind of that entrepreneurial isolation and loneliness that we can feel. So let's talk about, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with being lonely as an entrepreneur? The first thing is understanding that you're not alone. That's a lot of what I tried to do with our videos, is share the fact that this is normal. This is what people go through. This is not what people are telling you you're going to have to deal with when they say, oh, by the way, you should open up a business, it'll be great. They're not talking about this side of the business. And so we don't always understand that this is something that is critical for you to manage, so that you can manage to success, but also that when you get here, there's some things you can do. So I think that first thing is understanding that this is a normal part, that feeling lonely or feeling isolated as a business owner is a lonely part of the entrepreneurial journey. You just don't want to stay here too long. You don't want to get stuck in an echo chamber where your concerns, your worries, your doubts just reverberate in such a way that it magnifies the situation. So number 2 is, you need to lean into a support system, which chances mean you need to have a support system. You need to be able to nurture that as one of your communities of that help you be success. And that support system, honestly, you need to think about it multifaceted. You're likely not a simple person. You have complexity. There's more than one side of you, right? There's your family and friends, so a social aspect of it. There's likely a spiritual aspect of it. There's a fitness aspect to you. There's a joy aspect, hobbies and passions and things outside of your business. And then there's your business. So when I talk about the support support network for an entrepreneur, we have to think about both the business and the personal side. And sometimes that personal side needs a little more, if I'm honest. If you think about your spiritual health, your physical health, your belonging in your friend group and your family, and however that's made up, those are really important things, because you need to have those kind of communities to be able to tap into them, especially when you need support, when you need just maybe a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen, you need to go work it out, or you just need something taken off your plate so that you can move through the heaviness of wherever you are. So make sure that you've got that space to where you can verbalize, that you can share, and it's in a environment that's supportive, not judging. That's one of our key aspects that we try to bring to the table in our Your Biz Rules collaborative community, is that we aren't here to judge your journey, your problems, your successes. We're here to support the journey that you're on. And we realize that all of that stuff is part of the journey. So you want to be in a supportive, positive area to be able to do that. Number 3, take time for yourself. I felt like I had to say that nice and slow. Take time for yourself. What I have found, and I know this proves to be true for myself as well, the more ambitious you are, the less likely you are to take time for yourself. And this is really crucial, because if you think about it, even race cars, if you like NASCAR, Indy, or Formula One, whatever kind of racing you might like, watch it, because here are high performance vehicles being pushed to their limits, and they take pit stops, strategic ones, in fact, right? And it's very scientific. It's very, I'm sure there's some art to it, but it's also based on a lot of different things about the performance, but they take time for a pit stop. So if you think about yourself as a high performance vehicle, you need to be strategic in the time you take for yourself. If you don't take this time along the way, you'll eventually burn out, and your body will force you to take the time. And it's not always pretty, right? It's not always easy, and it tends to take a lot longer than it might have taken if you just took the time along the way. So take that, plan for recovery. If you're going to do a big push in your business, have recovery time afterwards. I know lots of entrepreneurs who enjoy taking off the 13th week of every quarter, right? They've built in that time for recovery. So time for recovery is really important. Number 4 is get out and socialize. Go to the happy hour, go to the barbecue, go to the party that at the end of the week, you're just not sure you have the energy to go. And part of this, especially if this is your support network and your family recharges you, your friends recharge you, is the fact that we can get into that bubble. Remember, I talked about the echo chamber that an entrepreneur can get locked into. We've got to get outside of that bubble. I think next week we talk about business perspectives, and this plays directly into it, is getting a different perspective. So you have to give a little bit of variety in there, because if you are going out, and I will say socialize with entrepreneurs, socialize with non-entrepreneurs, feed the multifacets of your personality, but have that opportunity, especially when you're outside of business, to give the mind a little break. Now, what's so crazy to me, and this is the silver lining to doing this, is that when you take this time, typically those big challenges, the things you've been trying to find a solution to, they just kind of get solved in your brain. But part of it is because you've given your brain space. You're not trying to solve the world's problems when you're socializing with your friends. And so that little subconscious can actually work for you, work to your advantage, and help you move through whatever it is you're trying to move through. So that was number 4. Number 5 is find a mentor or coach that can help you through difficult times. Everyone's journey is full of surprises. It just is. And we have a couple of things. One, we'll have our own fears that will get in our way. 2, we'll have uncertainty pop up. We talk about uncertainty all the time here because the only certain thing is uncertainty. You will have other people in your mix, and we can't control other people, so things happen. Either you have a great opportunity to hire a great hire, or the team member you thought was going to be with you forever decides that they're not going to be, or you lose a client, you lose a vendor, you can gain a client. I mean, there's so many different things that can change for you on a daily basis. Having a mentor or a coach, somebody who is in your right hand back pocket, who cares as much about your business as you do, that can mean all the difference in being able to make a good decision, make a well thought through decision, get the confidence and the reassurance that what you're thinking what actually is, it seems to be the best solution for that. So I just think about how impactful that can be when you've got those burning questions, to be able to just give somebody a call and say, hey, I need some help. Number 6, probably my most favorite, is celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how big and no matter how small. This is how you keep your brain going, how you subconsciously re-energize. It's really activating the dopamine in the brain, that good hormone that makes you feel really good, and helping you find more moments. It is so easy to be so ambitious, so forward thinking, big thinking, and feel like you're falling short. So you've got to find those support systems that you can use to celebrate, and celebrate no matter how big or how small. One of the things we send to our clients is a dance party button, and it's a 30-second dance party. It's hilarious, but the point is it only takes you 30 seconds to celebrate. So celebrate all those wins so that you feel inspired and you feel motivated to keep going. 7, this is really important. I'm like all adjusting myself in my chair. Reacquaint yourself in these moments of isolation and loneliness. Reacquaint yourself with why you do what you do. We had one of our clients through the pandemic who strongly was considering closing the business and getting a job. I mean, that disillusioned with watching everything that she had been working so hard on for years feel like it slipped away. And one of the things that occurred to me was like, sure, we can do that. Is that what you want to do? And you just knew that it wasn't exactly what she wanted to do. And so what I pushed her to do was to define her why, to really get clear on why she is doing what she is doing, to see the impact of her work and make a decision. Was that impact small enough to give up? Or was the possible impact, the change in other people's life, big enough to keep going? It was big enough to keep going. That is why I definitely think you can launch a business without a why. I just know that it becomes more and more important as you go along. So Simon Sinek, is one of the define your whys kind of gurus. It's something I enjoy helping people do. Just know that it's not a task. It's not something you likely are going to sit down in 30 minutes and whip out. It typically is something that evolves, that you need a prod, you need somebody to ask questions. You need somebody to reflect back to you what it is that you're trying to express until it becomes clear. And I find that takes about 2 months. 2 months of conversation, 2 months of back and forth, 2 months of playing with the words and seeing if they fit. And when you actually get there, it's palatable, it's powerful, and it really does break through some of this isolation and loneliness you can feel. So we've kind of covered a lot of ground, but it's really important. This is so super important to your success. This is one of the, like I said at the beginning, this is one of the strategies that people don't share as part of the success formula for entrepreneurs, but I have seen it prove its importance time and time again on the entrepreneurial journey. So we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about what causes entrepreneurial isolation, being that you're the one making all the decisions, and that can be heavy. Being that in a post-pandemic world, we've learned how to be alone more. And sometimes our search for freedom helps create that isolation and loneliness. We've talked about the fact that at the end of the day, unless you're a business owner, you don't understand what it's like to be a business owner. And that can be a cause of our isolation and our loneliness. And the fourth one being that we haven't developed the community that we can express some of our worries, some of our concerns, some of our burning questions, because a lot of our communities we're involved in to build the business. And so it can be really scary to be vulnerable in those areas. We also talked about 7 ways to deal with loneliness as an entrepreneur, and being that understand that this is part of the journey, but you don't need to get stuck in an echo chamber. Lean into your support system and have a varied support system. Look at developing support systems that really support the different areas of your life. Take time for yourself, be able to recharge and recover. That's super important. Get out and socialize with people, even if it's not high on the list for the day. Sometimes it's exactly what you need. Find a mentor and a coach who can help you through difficult situations. Celebrate your special moments. Get yourself a 30-second dance party button and reacquaint with your why. Understand why you do what you do. So lots of different strategies today to help you combat entrepreneurial isolation and loneliness so that you can be more successful in your business. That's it for today, guys. I hope you're doing well. This is Leslie Hassler with Your Biz Rules Business Coaching.